Hello and welcome back to my series on building a Minecraft railway station. So in previous episodes of this series we've constructed the main skeleton of the station you see here, and we have laid the rail and the necessary redstone inside the station, and we've also created our little gateway to go in and out of our rail entrance. Now we're going to proceed with building out the elevated rail. So now, why elevate the rail? Why not just leave it on the ground like this? And the answer is that you leave it on the ground and anything can get to it. Now, you can have, pigs, as you see out there, cows, whatever. They tend to love to get on your railroad track. And when you hit one of them, you're going to end up bouncing back in the direction you came from. It's uber annoying. Not to mention, if you want to actually ride these rail lines at night to get places, which is going to be necessary if you space out your railway stations a good distance, you don't want things that generate on the ground getting on your rail lines. So by elevating the rail lines, we eliminate those problems. We don't have animals that can get onto them. We don't have mobs that get up onto them. We will light the railway, as you'll see later on, and that actually prevents mobs from spawning on it. So you have this nice elevated rail system that just gets you from point A to point B without having anything in between actually obstruct your use of the rail line. So to start off with that, let's go ahead. I'll keep that piece right there. It's kind of arbitrary where you start. Usually you want to get it past this detector rail. I could actually start it right here. This just gives me maybe a couple of blocks of free play if I want to. Actually, I guess I'll go ahead and shorten it up one. This right here is probably about as tight as you can get it. Actually, this right here would be as tight as you can get it. But at any rate, this is close enough. Let me get some regular rail. And so what we're going to do is start building up. And I use increments of 4 because they seem to do the best job at getting up without having the power rail stall as often on you. Now, different computers, you may not have as much problem with it. If I get it any higher than about 1, 2, 3, 4, and sometimes I can go up to 5 as well. Any higher than that, and I start having a problem with having hit the detector rail, having the power rail stayed powered long enough to actually get all the way to the top of it. So usually about 4, sometimes like I said 5, although the ones that are 5 tend to hang a little bit more, is good. And so this is our basic. So see, at this point we've actually got it up in the air. If we're down here on the ground, any mob that's about the size of our character can't get to this. And later on we'll come back, we'll actually fence in this lower section and light it real well to try and keep other mobs from either entering and getting onto the rails or generating in there. So what I'm going to build is this elevated T-shaped rail line here, and you want to make sure that you've got a distance of 1, 2, 3. So from the very first riser block to the center of the T needs to be at least 3. You can make it a little longer if you want to, but any shorter and it won't work when we start actually putting the rail up here. Now the way that I build this out, I go ahead and kind of mock up the top and I leave it that way. And the reason for that is if you go out the wrong way on the rail line, it just puts you in a position where you can ride right back in. And so it's the same testing setup that we were using before. I'll go ahead and throw some torches up here to keep it lit. We'll throw the power rail right here, and we'll throw a switch on here. Okay. And so there's one mocked up end, and then we'll mock up the other end. And how far out you run this doesn't really matter. Just run it a little distance where you've got some play room with the track here. We'll put a power rail, a button, put some light out here so we can see what we're doing. Okay, then let's start running the rail in again. Now as we run it, you notice we're going to have this 3-way junction again like we saw inside the railway station, and we're going to have to deal with it yet once again. Now in this case, we don't need the track to automatically switch. We want the track to manually switch, because this is going to control whether we're going to go off to the right or off to the left, and thereby allowing us to travel in different directions out of this railway station, go to different destinations. Again, I'm going to build up and I'm going to put that last piece into the three-way junction at the end so that way I can see the way it naturally falls. So what I've got here, you want to do a detector rail and then power rails, which will power you up or down this, and then another detector rail. This is going to be a full duplex track, meaning that this portion of the track you go either way. You'll come in on it coming down, you'll also go out on it going up. So we need to make sure that any powered rail sections have a detector rail on either side of it. Okay, that will allow you to travel both ways. Now we'll go ahead and we'll build out here. Now see, what I wanted here is we don't want a detector rail here, it'll automatically switch our track. That's why I was saying if you make this any shorter than a 3-section, it just won't work. You'll have to have a piece of regular track on each one of these for now, and then we see how it lies. Now this time it went to the right. You notice when we were inside of the railway station, it went to the left. So again, it just illustrates that you don't really know which way the track's going to turn until you're out there and you're looking at it. Okay. Now, we already know that we're going to have a problem right here. If we're coming in from this direction like so, and we hit this, we're just going to jump over it and we would continue going that way. So let's go ahead and fix that problem. Let's take this piece of track out and put the detector rail in. So now we know if we're coming into the station this way, we'll hit this and it'll flip the track and we'll come in instead of bypassing it. If we're coming in from this direction, there's no problem, at least not yet. We'll see in just a little bit there is going to be a problem, but just to simplify, we're going to say it's okay for now. We come in, the tracks naturally turn that way, and we go out. So let's go ahead and let's start working on how do we wire this up to be changed by the switch that's inside the station. So first thing we need to come down here and do is actually run some redstone out from under the switch that we have inside. Now if we look, we can see the switch through the window here, and what we need to do is run some redstone underneath it. So I guess we'll start off inside the station and we'll run our redstone. We'll knock a hole here, and then, as I said, I have a tendency to like to just go ahead and put the cobblestone back in. And then we can, we're going to have to go down one in this case. There it is. Now, why am I doing this? The answer is, well, I guess I'll just demonstrate what the answer is here. Watch. We want this station to look pretty clean when we're done. If I just put the redstone like that, there's no way I can even drop a half slab over this. There's not enough room. So if I come in here and I put a half slab here, see, I can put one above it. You can have something that looks like that, but I wanted a nice flush floor. So what I have to do is go down one. Now that I've gone down one, I've forced the redstone to go down under this groove and back up. The redstone for this block is technically down 2, and so the game will actually allow you to put this half block right there, and it doesn't cut the redstone wiring. Now, let's go ahead and let's turn this on. That way we can see power, because as we run this, we might need to add some repeaters for additional power. We just need to make sure that we actually get the signal all the way out there. So it's on. We come back out this way, and we have to join that with this little piece that we ran out here. So let's just go ahead and, again, if you're happy running this across the ground, go for it. I think it looks a little cleaner and nicer to keep it on the cobblestone, so that's what I do. We'll just run it out here a little ways, and then we'll worry about how we're going to join it up. All right, so let's get some light out here so we can kind of see what we're doing. Okay, so coming back up here, come on you. Here is our track. We need it to switch, so we're going to add a block to the end of it, and actually we'll have to add 2, and you'll see why in a second. Well, we'll just show you why. Technically, you could add them like this if you want, and that's acceptable as well. What you need is this redstone wire to point in. If you tried to run it to the side like this, you know, we still got that problem now. This doesn't actually change the track, just like we saw with the piston over there. You're going to have to run it so you get that line. Now, going this way already kind of helps solve a problem because we're getting it down, and what we need to do is run it around to connect it to this other end. So that right there is fine, and we can run down this like a step structure like this, and then maybe we go ahead and run it all the way down to the ground and run it back this way. In fact, I think what I'll do, oops, that's not what I want. Again, thinking about something you'll see here in a minute. We're going to have to put an override. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring this up, bring it over, and maybe right here what we'll do is just kind of start running a line over this way. Now why we're doing this we'll get to in just a little bit, and you'll understand. I'm trying to line this up so that the engineering on it might be a little bit easier to do. Actually, no, that should be okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll run it, and then I'll tell you what the concern is going to be here, and we'll kind of approach that. Alright, so just to make sure I got a nice strong signal coming up here, and we run this, and maybe I need another repeater here just for a very small time. We can make sure the signal gets up, and we see our track has switched. So originally it was off to the right, now it's off to the left, and we can verify this. So we see with power it's off to the left. Let's go and flip the switch. I get lazy sometimes and I end up just break out the window, or you could just not put that window in if you're not concerned about things coming in. And you see now that it's back off to the right. Now, what's important about this too is we're keeping the track flipped the same way as the switch. Now, we didn't have the case in here where we flipped the switch this way, but the track went the opposite. See, the switch is flipped that way, and so we go this way. And then when the switch is flipped this way, we'll go the other way. That isn't always the case. Sometimes you'll put it in there, and the natural way is actually the reverse. We might flip the switch this way, but then find out when we come up we end up going that way. If that happens to you, it's real easy to fix. You just come out here, you put up a block, and you invert it. So again, on a case-by-case basis, you just have to see how it reacts. So now, in this case, I have the switch thrown forward, but if we look over here, the track is thrown the opposite direction. So just a simple inverter. All it is a block with a redstone torch on it. It has to be angled on the front so that way it powers the redstone line in front of it. In my case, I don't need that inversion, so we just put it back the way it was. Now, if you want to clean this up too, I believe you can. Well, we won't worry about it. I believe you can stick a half slab in there. I have to do it and make sure it doesn't cut the wire, but there might be a little bit of cleanup we can do. Now let me show you, I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll ride this rail, and we'll set the motivation up for the problem. There's still one problem left, and we're going to have to address it before this really works. Okay, so we head in and we get ourselves a rail cart, and we're going to test this out and make sure that what we're doing makes sense. So we want to go forward. So the switch is thrown forward. We should go off to the right when we come out here. So out we go. We head up this, and off to the right we go. So same way as the switch. Okay. We push the button here, and we head back down, and we're going into the rail. So into the rail station. So far so good. Now, let's go ahead and flip the switch so we go the other way. So the switch points towards us, so we should wind up on this other end of the track off to the left. So out we go again. we head up, and this time it flipped the track for us because we're applying power to it and we're out the left side of the track. Now, power is still being applied to it, so it's okay. We can hit the button and we'll go right back into the railway station. Now, kind of got to think a little bit outside the box here, because it's not going to be just you using the railway station, or it might be you using the railway station, but you don't come back. The point is, I flipped this switch, I made a decision that was the direction I wanted to go. Okay, so I went out this way. That was how sorry, I should have done it the other way. Let me go back in. We're trying to kind of set up the motivation for the one remaining problem in our track here. I should have done this a little smarter. Okay, I'm going to go off to the right. That's the decision I make when I leave the station. So I head out. I have left the station, and we're going to pretend that off to the right up here, this just continues on down the rail, and I go to another railway station, right? That's fine, except later on, Joe wants to try to come to this station, and he's coming from this direction. He's coming from a different railway station down the line. Okay? Now it flips for him, so that's okay. That was why we had put that detector rail in there. Now, here's our problem. What happens if we go off to the... Well, not if we go. We're going to park our railway car up here. So we tested that if somebody left this in the wrong position for you to approach the railway station from here, that this detector plate automatically switched. But what happens when somebody went off to the left? So in that case, they're actually already applying power to the rail. They're forcing that rail to go the opposite way. Okay? Throwing a detector rail over here doesn't help us out with that problem. See that? It doesn't do anything. And the reason it doesn't do anything is that we're already applying power to the rail. So what we really want to do is have an override that when we come from this direction and somebody has left the station going in a different way, we automatically flip this track. Now here's how we're going to do it. First, we're going to recognize that if we take a circuit and we invert it twice, that there is no difference from the endpoints of the circuit. Okay, now I'm just laying out some redstone here just to illustrate the point real quick. So let me grab a redstone lamp and a switch. That way I can keep the power on. Okay. Now this will seem pretty trivial at first, but it's going to be fundamental just shortly. Okay, so we can see that we have power at one end, we have power at the other end. So now I'm going to propose what happens if I just knock a section out here and I put two inverters in. I put one here and one here. Actually, I got to put one further forward. And I get, we'll just show you the whole concept. So I put one redstone torch there, one redstone torch here. So this is an inverter, right? It inverts it and it inverts it again, which means that from the standpoint of the switch back here, I see that I'm applying power, the light is on, I flip the power off, the light goes off. Doesn't really matter what happens in the middle here. What does matter is if I control this other end of the inverter as well, where I say I'm going to put a switch here and power it. Look at that. Now what I've done is use this inversion in the middle to take control of the circuit. See? Let me back up. You can see that the redstone lamp doesn't come on no matter what I do with this switch, because I have overridden the behavior with this switch. And that is what we're going to do on the rail line. We're going to add an inversion onto that switch control, a double inversion, and then we're going to add a detector plate that will control the other end of it. So let's come back up here. This is why I was trying to decide earlier how to elevate it, because what we're going to have is a detector rail. Maybe we put it about right here. Maybe a little further back. If you get the detector rail too close, you might have a problem with the redstone signal traveling the whole distance before you get to that change in the rail line. So again, we're going to run redstone next to it, and let's go ahead and let's get the inversion part of the design in here. So we put a block, we'll knock out some of this. We put another block, actually I could have put it right here. We put the redstone torch, we put the redstone, and we put the other redstone torch right here. So as you can see, there's power coming out, so there's power on this end. It inverts it to make it not powered, then it inverts it again to make it powered. So from the perspective of the circuit, the switch, there's no logical difference. Now what we're going to do is run this. And what we have to do is get our redstone from up here down. So redstone will go over a 1 block difference without too much problem. And so that should do it. We basically built a little stairwell that the redstone can run down. So let's go ahead and run it. And then we're going to stick a repeater over here, again, so we can adjust timing if we have to. We might not need it, but if it turns out, and whenever I stick the repeater, always remember too, you have to stick it from the direction of travel. What am I hung up on? So if the signal is coming down this way, you have to lay the repeater this direction. Alright, you can get a lot of grief by not doing that. I'll give you an example. So just for fun here, we're going to throw out the lamp I've still got, a little further out than that. And let's put some redstone wiring in here, and let's turn this on. Now what happens if I stand at the destination and I put the repeater in backwards? It didn't work. See that? It totally cuts off power. So you actually have to stand from the source of the power looking at the destination when you lay the repeater, or it doesn't go in right. That's why you'll see a bunch of positioning that I'm doing when I'm trying to put these in. Okay, so there we go. And we can test this. We can just throw a minecart up on top here and verify that when this is on, see how that rail switched in front of us? Okay, perfect. So we've got the setup we want to fix. Somebody has left the station and they've gone off to the left over here. And since they left the station, they can't just, go back and flip the switch the right way to be nice to anybody. So I'm coming in and I need that track to switch. Don't need the button to break here. So we hit the button and voila, it switched for us, no problem. Okay, so that right there is the main set of concerns for track that's running out of a Minecraft railway station. We have the redstone wiring here to control the piston, keeping things from coming in. We have the track up here, and I've kind of got this track dummied up here. And this is just, again, so that when you build this station, you don't necessarily run this track anywhere yet. If somebody goes out on it, it's just kind of a nice endpoint. They can stop, there's a button there, they can go back. Now that we've built all this, we're going to want to fence it in. So see, I already got a pig coming over here, and we don't want that. We don't want animals on the track. We don't want mobs on the track. So there's a few things we need to do to kind of clean up our work before we're done with this side of the rail system. So I'm going to basically need torches, was already there, and fence. And while I'm at it, go ahead and some gates. And so all we're going to do is we're just going to fence this in. Okay. And I could probably just fence it to right over here. It's probably fine. I don't have to fence that portion in. We'll come over here, we'll just keep running our fence underneath it. And we'll run our fence over here. Now, if you happen to be in this area that I'm fencing in, you probably want to be able to get out. You know, you don't want to be stuck where you can't jump out of the thing, or you're trying to, you know, jump off here in one direction. So, you know, putting a gate in so you can actually get yourself in and out of this area if you need to. So a couple of gates. Come on, you lay right. Now we want to light this place up. We don't want any mobs. Let me go ahead and fix my my window over here. Okay, and I was saying earlier, I believe you can put a half slab in if you want to make this a little cleaner. If I can hang on to my half slab. I'm pretty sure that's right. Let's see. Nope, I stand corrected. Not enough room. I know what it is. It's if you'd wanted to do that, this block here would have to be out because you need the redstone to bend down one and put it in. In our case, I'm not going to worry about it. Nothing's going to head in there and do anything. Okay, so let's get this fence lit up. On the fences, I'm just going to do it like, I guess I could have started over there to make it a little more of a pattern. Just every other one. Don't know if that pattern's going to hold up and look nice. We'll see. May end up just with a couple of them together, and that's just how it is. Okay, so one there, one there, one there, one there. Yep. Well, if I wanted to be super picky about it, and I really want one on either side of the gate. You know, again, maybe that doesn't bother you. Maybe it's just a me thing. Alright, so we got that. Then usually, anywhere that you've got things that are raised up, you can put a lot of light around that. So on here, I'll typically put it on the raised up parts. Up here. And this is just going to prevent mobs from spawning in here. You don't want creepers and zombies and skeletons and other things generating around all this, not unless you want to rebuild it and you want them on your rail. Now there may be a little bit of concern here. A spider could actually get up this. He could jump up and follow this and wind up on the rail. And there might be a way that a mob can get up there too, although we've left it elevated. And to get down the lower portion, you'd need to be in there. So some of this you just have to watch and adjust. If you start having a problem with mobs on the track, then basically come out and adjust your fencing, run it up higher, run it out further, whatever it is you got to do to get them off the track. When you start talking about rail, like elevated rail, I'd said you wanted to light it. I found that about every 5 blocks for a torch is about what's required, or for a glowstone block. So there's a torch, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that provides adequate light down the railway. For the torches, I'll put one on either side. And so I'll do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't always get them exact, but you can see now it's nighttime. We've got a pretty good feel for how lit our stuff is. I may put a little bit more here, and maybe put one up in here like that. Okay, looks pretty good. So this basically concludes our building out of the left side of the rail station. Now next video I want to go ahead and I'll fully film doing the right side. It's just going to be more of the same. So I probably won't give quite as much explanation. It's going to be the same general design that I've got here, just inverted to go out the other side of the station. And then we'll, again, ride the rail just like we did here. We'll make sure that you can go to the left, to the right, and then when you invert the switch, you can still come in even if the track right there is flipped the wrong direction. And after that, we'll go into a little bit. So for those of you that have been paying attention to what I've been saying in these episodes, I said that we had the design had improved the rail line. That the original design for this was a single rail. Well, you look at this, you still see a single rail. We're going to fix that. It would be a couple episodes from now. But what we'll be doing is we'll actually be dividing the railway and putting an automatic switch, so that way you always drive on the right, so to speak. You'll be one rail next to another one for going out, one for coming in, and they'll merge down to a single track to come in. I haven't found a nice way to actually make the track all the way into the rail station fully separated, I guess is a nice way to say it, in such a way that when you enter the rail station you can go out on any of the four rails, but yet miraculously you don't cause any problems entering the rail station with anybody else. Now, the general concern with traveling a single rail line is that you got this rail and you're on it for 15 minutes and you get 8 minutes down the thing and then you run into somebody else going the other direction and you bounce off, both going back the way you came. Well, that's really obnoxious and nobody likes that. And the longest part of the rail, so in other words, the highest probability you're going to run into somebody, is going to be down the length of the rail itself, more so than the railway station. If you get all the way up to the station and you're coming down here and you collide with somebody, you can jump out of your rail cart and just finish, hoofing it into the station itself, either here or through the front door or whatever, and resolve the problem. So for me, it hasn't been enough of a concern to really worry about any redesign on it. Okay, so I've knocked that out. I'm just kind of prepping. Let me go ahead and wrap this episode up. And then, like I said, on the next one, we'll go ahead and we'll take care of all the redstone wiring that runs out this other side and get it tested. So, again, I hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully we'll see you on the next episode, and goodbye for now.